Hey guys, Anthony here. Got another class for you today. Today we're going to do a full body strength workout with just our body weight. So we have a variety of things in here, hopefully some things that maybe you can't do, but with a progression from beginner to kind of intermediate and or advanced for you to work through. So this is definitely a workout that you could come back to as you progress through the different levels. So we'll get straight in. I'm going to start us off with a warm-up. So the first thing I'm going to get you to do is a nice squat hold. So we're going to squat all the way down, as low as you can manage. Okay? We're going to hold that bottom position for 30 seconds. And the idea is you want to try and get your feet as flat as possible and get your hips underneath you as possible. Okay? So you may find your hips are quite high, or maybe you're on your heels, or on your toes. Ideally we can get the hips as low down as we can, the knees forward, and we can just sit in that position comfortably with flat feet. Okay, it can take time to get into that position. If you find that's easy enough, we're going to add a rotation to it. So you're going to hook an elbow on the inside of one knee, and then you're going to reach up like so. We'll count that as one. Then we hook the other elbow, reach up and rotate. So you're going to keep doing that 10 times. So if you're doing the rotations, 10 repetitions or 5 on each side. And if you are not doing the rotations, you're just in the squat, just hold that for 30 seconds. Okay, that's exercise number 1. Second thing we'll do is some inchworms. And I've got a few variations here. So an inchworm, essentially, we're going to bend over at the hips, trying to keep the legs as straight as possible, okay? And the aim is try and get your weight into your hands as early as you can. So I'm tipping forwards, all the body weight's in my arms. I'm going to go out into a plank, okay? I push myself back with my arms, and then tip the weight back onto my feet to stand up. That's the most basic one. To add a bit of intensity to that, or difficulty, we do the same thing. Okay, but once we're here, we do a rotation. So I lift up my arm, and I switch over to the other side, and then I walk back in, like so, until I tip my way back to my feet. Something more difficult again, is we can try that on one leg. Okay, so tipping forwards on one foot, okay, until I get here. And if you really want to, you can try one arm on each side again, which can be quite tricky. Let your foot roll. So you can see here I'm letting it go flat. Don't try and keep it on the toe. Once you've done that, walk back, dip onto the foot, and try and remain on that leg. Okay? So I want to see 6 of those in total. So obviously on the single leg there'll be 3 on each side. And you can combine any of the variations how you see fit for yourself. Third warm-up exercise, we're going to do a glute bridge, hip bridge to warm up the glutes. So you can hold the hip bridge in this position for 30 seconds. If you want something slightly more intense, we can go for reps. So we can go for 10 of those. And then something a bit more on top of that is we can try single leg. Okay, this adds up the intensity quite a lot. So you can either hold that, or you can try repetitions and go for 10 on each side. Okay? Brilliant. And then the final warm-up exercise, we are going to do a stretch of the shoulders. So for this one, you want to sit on your heels as best you can. Get your knees as wide as possible. And then you're going to bring yourself forwards, like so, and try and drop the chest down to the floor. Okay, stretching out the shoulders. And we want to hold that for a good 30 seconds. Okay, So once you've done those 4, you may find that you're warmed up enough, or it might be a good idea to go back to the beginning and repeat another time, possibly even a third. They're great exercises in themselves, not just for a warm-up. So, first thing we're going to do is a bit of legs, our first kind of strength-based exercise. Now, my rough guide with this exercise is to do 4 to 5 sets of 10, but you may need to reduce the volume depending on how difficult you find each level that we're going to go through. Okay, but I would say if you can do one of the levels for 4 to 5 sets of 10, you're probably definitely ready to move on to the next one, to at least attempt a few repetitions. So basically we're going to start with a split squat and build up to a pistol squat, and we'll show you all those different variations. So the first one is a split. Okay, it's not too similar to a pistol, but it's a starting point if you're very new to this sort of thing. So for a split squat, I'll show you from the side first. You want to put one foot behind you, and then we're focusing on the leg in front. So what we definitely don't want to do, a very common error, is people tend to be way too far back and they use their back leg in this, but that is incorrect. What you want to try and do is get all your body weight forwards on that front leg. Okay? So on that front foot, you want to feel an equal pressure on the heel and the balls of foot. We definitely don't want to be on the heel on that front foot, and we don't want to be excessively on the toes. Okay, we call it a middle balance, middle foot balance. Okay, once you have that middle foot balance, okay, you can see my hips are over my foot. I'm going to go down as low as I can, and then use that leg to push myself back up. And I'll show you 10 of those. Okay, so you can see my body weight isn't shifting backwards or forwards. It's really staying over that leg, and this leg is purely there to aid in my balance. It's not really providing much pushing to get me back up at all. Okay, so I'll show you a few from the front. So same idea, get the weight over that front leg. And the idea is you should feel that pressure kind of maintains in the middle of the foot the whole time as I move up and down. And make sure that you fully extend your leg at the top. People tend to not quite finish the rep here. So as low as you can, as high as you can. That's level 1. Level 2, this is getting closer, much closer to a real single leg squat, but adds a lot of resistance onto the leg, so it is a bit harder. So it's a foot behind. So what you do is you pick your leg, and you just put your toes right behind your foot like that. Okay, from another angle, it looks like that. Okay, so same idea. Probably the most important thing is where your balance is. So I definitely don't want to be back on the heel, and I probably want to avoid excessively being on the toes. It's just that middle foot. Again, this leg I'm trying not to use. It's just there if I need it. Kind of more of a psychological aid. And then once I'm in that position, again I want to squat as low as I can, like so. So as you can see, it does require a fair bit of ankle mobility and strength in the leg. So what you may find is that you're leaning forwards a lot. That could be a tightness in the calf and the knee isn't allowed to travel forwards enough. So what you really want to make sure of is you keep your weight forwards over your foot and not drift back. And again, once you can get maybe 10 of these for 4 or 5 sets, that's when you can look at moving on to the next level. Okay? So that's just kind of a single leg squat with the foot behind. Number 3 is also leg behind, but this is where things start to get very tricky because now you won't have that foot aiding you at all. Okay? So this is similar to an exercise called a shrimp squat, where you hold onto the leg like this, but we're going to just try it without holding onto the leg. So, I balance on one leg, and make sure I'm balanced on that middle foot, so I'm not on my heel, I'm not excessively on the toes. Once I have that middle foot balance, I'm going to squat down with that leg behind, and then come back up. Okay? So this is easier because it requires less strength in the quadricep and it requires less balance. Okay, there's less uprightness. Okay, so it's easier to get a bit lower because you're using your hips a bit more. Okay, so the idea is to get as low as you can, keeping that leg off the floor, and just staying over that middle foot. Okay? Then, level 4 is the pistol. So ultimately what you would try and build up to using all those previous levels. So this one takes the most strength, not necessarily the most balance, but the same idea. The best tip again is your balance. Don't get forced back onto your heel. Try and get as middle foot as you can. Once you have that, keeping that leg out in front. Like so. Alright, so that's the single leg squat. So again, find a good level for you. Get to 4 to 5 sets of 10. If you're doing that with relative ease, try the next level. Or you can just try and push yourself to the highest level you can get to. You don't need to do 10 repetitions. It could be 1, 2, even 5. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is just to practice them and keep the quality of the movement as high as you can. So, moving on to exercise number 2, the handstand. So, probably technically the most difficult one we'll cover today, but I have 5 levels of progression that maybe you'll give this a chance, give it a go. So, the initial issue with this exercise is people's mobility. Okay, so the ability to hold their arm over their head comfortably without all this hunching and weird stuff going on. And then also just having the general strength. But I would counter that in saying that if you can do that, the strength of your bones goes a long way, and if you're all bent and hunched up, these muscles will fatigue very quickly. So it's a combination of the two that's very important. So we're going to try this one first, and this is good for developing strength and a little bit of mobility in your handstands. So basically it's going to be a shoulder stand, similar to down dog in yoga, but on the floor. So basically, you're going to get your hands just about shoulders width. You're going to go into your tippy toes. You're going to get your head through, and then you want to just slowly rock as much body weight as you can onto your shoulders. And you want to think about stretching and reaching through your arms as you tip your weight over. It's not too challenging, so it's a very nice beginner introduction to the idea. And again, you would want to hold that for a minimum of 30 seconds before considering moving on to the next level. So, level number 2, we do pretty much the identical exercise. This time we do it from an elevated surface. So this is probably slightly higher than a chair. Okay, the other box is slightly lower, but you can use a chair at home, your sofa, a stool, anything that you can find. And the higher it gets, the more difficult it becomes. So again, this is a very scalable level. So you can start with something low and build it up, because the higher your legs end up being, the more weight you have in your arms and the more mobility you need in your shoulder. So for this one, you want to start with your hands on the floor, like so. Okay. And then get my feet up there. Once I have that, I'm going to slowly do the same thing, where I walk my toes forwards, and at this point, I've nearly got all my body weight over my arms. And I'm really stretching and extending my arms, trying to stretch up to the ceiling. And you want to be able to hold that for at least 30 seconds. Alright? Because that's quite hard, that's actually quite tricky. It's close to the real thing. But again, 4 to 5 sets, with about 30 seconds holding that before you think about moving on to the next one. So, this is where we start to get more into the specific position of a handstand. We're going to do a reverse walk up the wall. So this doesn't involve much balance, but it involves a lot of strength, and it does involve the position that we're looking for. So I'll adjust this slightly so you get a better view of the wall. Brilliant. So we're going to start on your hands and knees, and we're going to use our legs and our arms to walk up this wall and basically get into a handstand position and just condition and strengthen that position. So if my hands are here, my foot goes up, walk it back, and that's my handstand position. Okay, you don't want to get too close to the wall because you'll end up falling over. So my hands are 30 centimeters away from the wall. Once in this position, I'm stretching through my arms and stretching through my legs, trying to make my body as long as I can. And again, you want to aim for 30 seconds. Now to get out of it, you need to walk forwards. And make sure you walk your hands forwards enough that your legs have space to come down, because if you don't, you'll end up in a crumpled mess at the bottom of the wall, and it's not very nice. Okay? So make sure you're feeling very confident before attempting that, or put your couch cushions all over the floor to provide some padding and protection. So that's level 3. That one might take a long time to get quite good at, but that's fine, that's the progression. Number 4 is when we start trying to hold our handstand ourselves. So we're going to use the wall as an assistant again, but there's going to be 2 additional things. We're going to kick into the handstand, so we have to learn how to be able to do that before we can do it on the ground. And then once we're on the wall, we can start kind of teasing our way off the wall and feeling our own balance in the handstand a little bit. So we'll show you what that looks like. So, common errors, people go too wide with their hands. Remember, arms are shoulder width apart, reaching past your ears. When you go into the handstand, you don't want to go arms over, but you want to try and push through your arms. Okay, that's important that we do that because it puts the forces in the right direction. Because we want to go up, not into the wall. Okay? So the idea is not to smash your body into the wall, but to try and delicately place your feet against the wall. So I step into it, hands go through, catch myself against the wall. So initially, once you get into that position, you can hold it like this. Again, stretching through my legs, stretching through my arms, nothing bent. I've got to keep them locked. And then once I'm there, this is where you can start to feel a little bit what it's like to hold a handstand yourself by pushing yourself away. Okay? So you saw there, I held my balance a little bit, and then when I felt it falling, I just let it happen, stretched my leg out in front, and the most important thing is you keep your arms straight. As soon as they bend, that's when bad things happen. Keep the arms locked, and you'll do as I did, where the legs just naturally came to the floor and I could stand myself back up. Okay? Again, that one could take a lot of work before we feel confident moving into number 5. So the actual handstand. So this can be done 2 ways. If you have a trustworthy friend, okay, they can help you balance. But ideally, I would just do it for yourself, either in a nice padded area, in the garden, or if you're feeling brave, just on the carpet or something. So, same idea as how we got onto the wall. We want arms underneath, push off the leg to push us into the handstand. Okay? Now, the trouble is that if you push too far, you're going to fall all the way over and land flat on your back. So please, please, if you're going to try this, make sure you're confident you're not going to go all the way over, or you've set up some sort of situation where if you do land on your back, it's not the end of the world. Okay? So I come forwards, hands through. Okay, so stretching through the arms, stretching through my legs, using my whole body to stay in the handstand. I'm not slack and lazy. So that's a very quick progression of how to do a handstand, but all the other levels themselves are great for shoulder strength, core strength, and generally just quite a fun activity and skill to do if you have nothing else to do. Okay, exercise number 3, we're going to get into a push-up. So 4 levels of push-up, these we'll get through a lot faster. We have push-up from the knees. So in your push-up from the knees, we want to make sure that our hips aren't moving and our body weight remains over the top of our hands. Okay? It's all too often we see people going down well and then sliding their hips back. But then they're taking out the full concentric or the actual hard work of the press up and you're losing so much benefit. So get your weight over your hands. My hips are fully extended. I lower myself down, press with my arms until they're fully extended. And you can see my trunk remains very straight. And I hinge from the knees and I don't break at the hips. Okay? So with the press ups, each level, once you can do 4 to 5 sets of maybe 10, then you could probably look at the next level and have a good bash at it and without it being too difficult. So regular press ups, again quite a big jump in intensity, but let's say you can do 4 to 5 sets of 10 from the knees. If you can only get 3 or 4 press ups full length, even 1, that's still really good. You just got to slowly build up the amount of volume that you can do, repetitions, and mainly frequency or how many times you practice them in a week is very important. So full length, same idea, we're not moving back, our hips stay fully extended or straight. I lower myself down, keeping my weight balanced over my hands, and then pushing through the arms to come up. Okay? So that's a regular press up. So I did them like this. So my hands are just slightly outside my shoulders width. Something a bit harder, okay, if you're feeling like you can move on, is we can do a tricep push-up or a narrow width push-up. So instead of my hands being here, I bring them in underneath my shoulders and I perform press-ups from there. This makes the tricep work a lot harder. Okay, mechanically it's a lot more difficult. So this is actually called a tricep push-up as well. So with my narrow stance, I lower myself down, push through my arms. Okay, and as you can see there, I'm not letting my elbows splay out to the side. I'm trying to keep them really close to my sides, like so. It makes them a lot harder, but mechanically it's much better. Next, in the final push-up, we have a diamond push-up, which is a little bit harder than the tricep push-up. And it's called a diamond push-up because you want to make a diamond shape with your hands. Okay, so from here, I move my hands to that position like so. And this is the hardest variation I have for today. Again, elbows close, push through your arms, let your chest go down to your hands. And if you can get 4 to 5 sets of 10 with that press up, you're doing pretty good for yourself. It's a pretty difficult exercise. Okay, next we have reverse plank. Again, aiming for 4 to 5 sets. We have 3 different levels for that as well. And this one's for time, so duration held. So 4 to 5 sets of about 30 seconds. It's a great exercise for the posterior chain, so hamstring and glutes, and really good for kind of upper back stability, strength, and mobility. So the easiest one is called a table. You want your hands or fingers pointing towards your feet. My feet are flat, and I'm going to push my pelvis up as high as I can until I'm flat. So we're not lifting our chest or heads back, I'm pushing my hips through, very similar to a glute bridge. So I feel my shoulders stretching, my shoulders working, my upper back working, my hamstrings and my glutes. So it's a really good exercise for all those muscle groups. And again, you can hold that for 30 seconds, it's a pretty good job. And you want to aim for 4 to 5 sets of that. The next one will be a full length. So again, fingers pointing towards you. My feet aren't flat this time, but I'm on my heels. And then I push my hips up from that position. Again, this gets more into the legs because they're straighter, there's more load through them. Just adds that little bit of extra intensity. Keep those hips pushed through. And again, 30 seconds is what we want to aim for there. Third and final level, you want to grab your chair, or your stool, or your coffee table, it doesn't matter. And we're going to elevate the feet. For the final level of difficulty. So my hands are here. Put my heels on my elevated surface. Make sure it's secure. And then what I'm going to do is lift up my hips as high as I can. And this does take a lot of effort, a lot of leg strength. So my hamstrings are screaming, glutes are really working. And holding that for 30 seconds would be pretty tough. Really push those hips through. Whew. Very good. So that's the final level of the reverse plank. Again, 4 to 5 sets, aim for 30 seconds for each set. Okay, bit of core now, kind of a gymnastics movement. We're going to do some hollow holds. So this again, 4 to 5 sets. We want to aim for 30 seconds for each set. And level 1 is this. So this is the bent version. So you sit like this, and all you got to do is kind of slouch, easy, right? Lean back and hold that. Okay? You should feel engagement in your stomach. If you feel your lower back, you're probably trying to hold yourself up. Don't, just relax. We want to have a curved spine in this exercise. So I'm letting my ribcage depress, and I just hold that there. And after the 30 seconds, you should feel your abdominals working fairly hard. Level 2 is harder, considerably so, but it's scalable. So let's say you're managing that okay. What you can start to do is open up. Okay, and the more open I get, the harder it becomes, until eventually you can get to this position here, which is very, very difficult. And again, you want to try and hold that for 30. Make sure you're rounded in the spine and not letting yourself open up. That's level 2. Number 3 is that same open position. So before you do 3, you've got to make sure you can hold that really open position for at least 30 seconds. And that's when we start to raise the arms overhead. So the open plank, hollow hold, and then I reach the arms over. Oh, that's very tough, and honestly, for me, that would probably be my limit for that, especially for 30 seconds, especially for 4 rounds, but it would give you a very strong core. Now, if you're stronger than me in that one, you can go 1 extra level, grab yourself a weight plate, or any sort of weighty object, it doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be weight plate. And we want to go into that position, so the open, then the arms, and that's really tough. And that would be level 4, and then really the only limitation of progression is how much weight you can hold there. Alright, that rounds up the session, guys. So again, a full body strength based workout. You don't need tons of equipment to work very hard on the full body, so if you have any questions, just throw them down in the comment section below. Let Scott know what you would like to see, because we could do ideas as well. So yeah, enjoy, guys. Thank you very much.